Well, my top rated book on confidence is called The Super You. I'm sending it to you, physical book, free. Go to the link down there. You got it.
DreAllDay.com.
Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen, tuning into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve is yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative to go get an energy for you to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Putting all this together, you get the mindset, the method, the podcast known as Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and today's topic is how to get things done. Let me give the better title to that topic. You've seen it already. It's how to stay in ass-kicking mode. I think that's a better topic than how to get things done. I mean, it just sounds better. This is more of a kick to it, right? How to stay in ass-kicking mode in life, and it's more than getting things done. All right, ass-kicking mode is getting things done without regard for human life, without regard for how somebody else may feel about it, without regard for how long it's taken, without regard for whatever limitations somebody may try to put on the situation or put on you or put on themselves for helping you get things done. And we've all been there before. We all know what it feels like to be in ass-kicking mode. It's different. Getting things done and being in ass-kicking mode is two different things, right? Can we agree? It's another level of getting things done. It's kind of like a fire is another level of warmth, right? You could be warm in your house and turn the heat on, and the house could be on fire. It's still hot, but it's a different level of being hot. That's what we're talking about here today. This is when you get into that, you get that sense of urgency. Maybe it's a sense of desperation. Things need to get done, and when you get into that ass-kicking mode, things don't need to get done, they get done. You ever been in that space? Maybe you're in that space right now today. Maybe you need to get yourself in that space is why you listen to this. Maybe you just listen to every episode. Maybe you've been there before, and now that I'm talking about it, you're thinking about it right now. All of us at one point or another, I don't care how old you are or what you do, we've all been in that ass-kicking mode. Things got to get done. For whatever reason, we've gotten to this space, we develop that sense of urgency, and things get done. Whatever we need to do, whoever we got to call, however we got to handle it, it gets handled and things get completed. How do you get yourself into that mode and actually stay in that mode? How would you, if you wanted to, just live your life in that ass-kicking mode, how do you actually do it? How do you get there? How do you stay there? What do you have to do to maintain it? What do you have to not do to maintain it? What's the mental game behind that? You got questions, I got answers. Let's get into it. Point number one, the relationship is not the priority. Now, see, the thing about this ass-kicking mode that I'm talking about here today, this ain't for everybody. And I've said this many episodes of this show. I got to throw this disclaimer out there. And this whole show, this disclaimer I'm giving right now applies to everything that gets said on this show. This ain't for everybody. Everybody's not going to be able to do this. Everybody is not capable of doing this. Everybody does not want to do this. And not everyone who's listening to this episode right now should be doing this. Some of you don't need to do this. Some of you need to pass this to somebody else and let them do it. Some of you need to just listen to it for entertainment purposes and just listen to the next episode. Maybe you'll get something from that. This ain't for everybody. Everybody does not have not everyone has the makeup to apply this. But there are some of you who do. And I believe this is a really important point, getting into that ass-kicking mode and getting things done, because the overall goal of all of this, working on our games and discipline and the confidence and the mental stuff, the goal is not to just say that you work on your game. The goal is not just to practice and work on your game and have skill. The goal is to produce results. All right, that's what we're about here. In case you didn't know, the goal of working on your game is not just to work on your game. Working on your game is a means. The end is the production. Okay, and the results that come from that production. So this ain't for everybody, but I got to put it out there just in case it is for you. Now you know where you can get it. The relationship, this is point number one. The relationship is not the priority, meaning it's not about being friendly. It's not about getting along with everybody. It is not about being sociable. It is not about being nice. It is not about everyone agreeing. It is not about you compromising with a whole bunch of other people. It may not be about you compromising with anybody. Too often in life, we are trying to get shit done, and we think we are getting things done, or at least we think we're going to get things done, but at the same time we want to get things done. Maybe you've had this issue before. Maybe you run into someone who had this issue. While we're trying to get a whole lot of things done, we're still trying to be cool with people. Right? You know what I mean when I say being cool with people? You still want to be friendly. You still want to be nice. You still want everybody to get along. You know what I'm saying? You're trying to maintain those relationships, however thick or thin they may be, with everybody, and make sure everybody's happy. Nobody's feelings are getting hurt. No feathers are getting ruffled. How are you going to get things done if you're trying to do both of those at the same time? If any of you has been, will be, want to be, or has worked with someone who is a person who has been in that ass-kicking mode, maybe you've had a boss or a parent or a coach or a friend, or maybe you're that person, you understand that there are times where somebody's feelings just going to have to be hurt. Somebody's just going to have to take things the wrong way. Somebody's just going to have a problem with what you said to them, or how you said it, or what you chose to do, or what you chose not to do. Somebody's just going to have a problem with it because there are certain things that got to get done. Maybe it's been you, or maybe you've experienced it. You've been one place or the other. Maybe you've been in both places at one point or another. Maybe that's where you learned it from, right? Rodney King had a statement back after he got beat by the police, and the police didn't go to jail for. Rodney King had this statement. He said, "Can't we all just get along?" Remember Rodney King said that? If you haven't heard that, well, he said it. The answer is no. No, we cannot all just get along. When you need to get shit done, everybody ain't going to get along. See, people at times in life, and you can tell me if you've ever experienced this, at times in life, we have conflicting interests with other people who may be in our same environment. All right, you want the parking spot and somebody else wants the parking spot. All right, you want to score, but somebody else wants the ball too. You want to win the game, but the guy on the other team, he wants to win the game. You want the promotion, but the person in the cubicle across from you, they also want the promotion. Sometimes we have conflicting interests. All right? We both want to do something, but both of us can't do it in the same place at the same time. All right, this is against the laws of physics. Shout out to Lauren Hill. People have conflicting interests. Somebody may need to be moved out of your way in order for you to achieve the outcome that you're trying to achieve. And understand, today's topic is how to stay in ass-kicking mode. If you're in ass-kicking mode, there's not a question of if you're going to move somebody out of the way. It's not a question of how hard is it going to be, or is it possible. The question is when you're going to move them out of the way, and how many of them do you have to move out of the way in order to achieve your outcome. Because ass-kicking mode is not considering the downside. We're not considering what might happen, what might go wrong, who might have a problem with it, who's going to have an objection. The only thing you're concerned with when you're in ass-kicking mode is achieving the goal, completing the mission, whatever that mission happens to be. So does everybody have to get along? Is everybody going to get along? No and no. If you're not okay with that, this is not for you. I want to make sure I'm putting that out there. I want to make sure everyone knows that everything I talk about here on the Work on Your Game podcast is not a prescription for your life. All right, this is not a shoulds. This is not me telling you how you should live or how you should think or what you should do. I'm just telling you, listen, if this is what you want to achieve, getting in ass-kicking mode, these are the things that you need to do. All right, if you want to do this, here's how it can be done. If you don't want to do it, it's all good. It's all good. Listen, enjoy this show for entertainment purposes, or this episode, and then you can move on to the next one. Maybe I'll talk about something that's a little bit more compromising that fits you better. And I'm not saying that to be what's the word I'm looking for here? I'm not saying that to be like to talk shit. I'm not trying to be smart. All right, I'm being dead serious. It ain't for everybody. All right, point number 2. Today's topic is how to get and stay in ass-kicking mode. Number 2, be prepared to do it all if you have to. Be prepared to do everything that is required for things to get done. If you got to take the job off of everybody else's hands and just do it yourself, go ahead and do it. Episode number 882, I told you about when to completely take over a situation. If you did not listen to that episode, go back and listen to the episode just a few days ago, or listen to it. You can't do this, but here's the thing. This is a disclaimer to this point number 2. You can't do everything, if you're short of ability, or you're unsure of yourself, or you're unwilling to do the required dirty work, quote unquote dirty work, whatever that is. Certain jobs, certain tasks, if you don't have the skill to do it, or you don't have the confidence to execute on it, or you just, for whatever reason, you're just uncomfortable doing those things, you cannot do it all, and you can't take over a situation. It's hard to go into ass-kicking mode if there are skills that you're missing, because what if everybody else gets out of the way? What if nobody else wants to be involved? What if it's just you, and there are 10 tasks that got to get done in order to complete the mission, but you only have the skills to do 8 of them. 2 of them, you have no skill, no know-how, you have no idea what to start, what to do, where to begin, and you're in a time crunch. How you want to go into ass-kicking mode and complete the mission? You can't, because you're lacking skills. So you got to make sure you got all the skill in place in order to do this. So you can't kick ass with no legs. All right, that's a metaphor. Now, I'm not talking about someone who has had their leg amputated. I'm saying metaphorically, if you have no legs, meaning abilities, you can't kick ass. All right, everybody you understand what I'm saying there, right? So make sure that all your skills are in place. all your abilities, all your know-how, all your experience, all the tools necessary, all the resources you need in place in order to do what you got to do in order to get that thing done, if it comes to that. Because maybe you only had to do your job, your one part, right? And then the other 5 people on your team, they'll do what they got to do and it gets done. But what if 2 of those 5 people don't show up? So instead of you doing one thing and everybody else doing one thing, you got to do 3 things and everybody else does their one. Do you have the skill to do those other 2 things? Do you have the skill to take up those other people's jobs and get it done? Now, one of the things I talked about back in the earlier episode of the show, in the full archive of this podcast at dreallday.com/podcast, you see what number episode this is. If you have not listened to that many episodes, then you've missed a lot of things. Go back and listen to them. Is that if you're going to be in a complete leadership position, you got to know every job. You got to know every job on the lot. You got to know every job in the building. You got to know what everybody else is supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, when and where they're supposed to do it. There was a story I heard of LeBron James, and one of his teammates was saying, as someone who played with LeBron, that they were playing the Atlanta Hawks, and there was a player who was left open for a 3-point shot, and one of the Cavs players ran over to this guy to try to run him off for the 3-point shot, to play defense, to not let this guy get an open 3-point shot. And LeBron James yelled at his teammate, "Yo, don't run at that guy. Let him shoot. Let him shoot the 3-pointer." And LeBron's teammate said to him, "Well, LeBron, why would we let this guy shoot a 3-pointer? He is a 42% 3-point shooter. And if you don't watch basketball, 42% is a pretty solid percentage from 3-point land. So you don't want to leave a 42% shooter open." And LeBron James replied, "Well, he only shoots 28% from that spot." So LeBron James not only knew the scouting report, but he knew the scouting report in detail. He said, this guy's a 42% 3-point shooter in total, but from that particular location, he only shoots 28%. Now imagine that. You're playing in a basketball league with 500 people in it. You're playing a different team every single night, in addition to your duties, which is being the man on the team. LeBron James we're talking about here. And knowing all your teammates' tendencies and responsibilities, you even know in detail what another player on another team does from a certain spot on the floor. That's amazing, right? I think if any of you who follow basketball, you saw during last year's playoffs when the Cavs were playing the Celtics. It was on Twitter, it was also on Instagram, how a reporter asked LeBron James what happened during a certain segment of the game. And LeBron went and actually, like a photographic memory, he explained what happened for about 5 consecutive plays in the game. And along with him talking it, someone edited it and put the actual sequence of plays that happened in the game. And LeBron had it, like, photographically, he had it exactly as it had taken place. And people were like, wow, how does this guy know all this stuff? That's what we're talking about when being a leader. All right, that's knowing every single job on the floor, knowing what everybody else is supposed to do, where everybody else is supposed to be, how they're supposed to do it, and being able to do something about it. Right? It's one thing to know it, another thing to do something about it, right? When I was in college, when we would play pickup games, I used to do reverse layups all the time. I would go to the basket, and if someone jumped to challenge me, I would reverse and shoot the layup on the other side of the rim. And I remember one of my teammates, this white guy, I went to do a move one time, and I jumped, and he yelled out as soon as I jumped, he's like, he's going to reverse it. And then I reversed it, and I made the layup. And I remember looking at him and thinking to myself, well, yeah, it's one thing if you know what I'm going to do, it's another thing if you can do something about it. Like, just yelling it out is not going to stop him from doing it. I mean, if Shaq got the ball in his prime and he got the ball in the post with a guy on his back, you could yell out he's going to dunk it. It's not going to stop you from stopping him. So you got to know everything that's going on in the job and be fully prepared to do it if those jobs happen to fall into your hands. Point number 3. Today's topic is how to stay in ass-kicking mode. Compartmentalization. Compartmentalization. What does that mean? It means breaking things down into their compartments and putting each energy into the space that it needs to be in. Meaning, you don't have to be this ass-kicking mode person all day, 24 hours a day when you want to go into this mode. So me saying that this ain't for everybody, I'm not talking about you got to be this person all day, every day. All right, you don't have to be an asshole to people or whatever it is you think comes along with going into ass-kicking mode, or the relationship not mattering as much, as I said in point number 1. You don't have to be this person all day long. You just got to be this person while you're completing the mission. Well, whether that means being at work or playing your sport or running your business or taking care of whatever needs to be taken care of for your family, whatever it happens to be, you don't have to be this person all the time. Compartmentalization is your ability to activate it when needed and shut it off when the job's done, or when you clock out, quote unquote. The job's done, you could turn it off. When the job's on, you could be that guy. I remember watching a guy like Michael Jordan. People always talked about how this guy had such a killer instinct, and when he was on the court, he was just ready to rip guys' heads off. And if you watched him play, that's kind of how he played. And he was a pretty good player and had a whole lot of success as a player. But when the game was over, he was able to shake people's hands and talk to the reporters and smile and be a nice guy and be friendly with people as soon as the game was over. And before the game, he was like that too. But during the game, he was able to turn it on. And one of his close associates said in one of the books, he was like, man, when Michael Jordan got on the court, like it would be right before the game, he'd be sitting around talking, laughing with people, talking to reporters, having fun. He had a smile on his face and people were taking pictures of him. He was like that pitch man, right? The $1 billion pitch man that he had become off the court. But as soon as he stepped in between those lines, it was like somebody turned a light switch on. And he just became that guy. And he did what he had to do on the court. And as soon as the game ended, it's like he turned the switch off. And he went right back to being the smiling guy who was on the cover of the magazines and the front of the Wheaties box. So compartmentalization is your mental ability to turn it on when you need it and turn it off when you don't need it, when it's time to clock out. Or, I mean, look, if you want to, you could be this person all the time if you wish. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you can do it. But learn how to do it with a smile on your face. All right. And Robert Greene talks about this in the 48 Laws of Power, where he mentioned, I forget even which chapter it was, but it's called Play the Perfect Courtier. I believe it's somewhere in the 20s. If you don't have the book, just go get the book. And I've talked about that book as one of my favorites, episode number 60. Yes, 60, my favorite books. I've done 5 different favorite books episodes. Again, go to dreallday.com/podcast. Use the search function in your browser. You can find what those favorite books are. I've listed, I believe, 25 to this point. And that's not counting all of Dre Baldwin's books, which you can find at Audible, Amazon, and at dreallday.com/books. But anyway, today's topic, let's recap. How to get and stay in ass-kicking mode. Number 1, the relationship is not the priority. See, you can't get things done as they need to get done while at the same time thinking, oh, I got to make sure I'm watching everybody's feelings, make sure that we compromise, make sure everybody's getting along. Everybody cannot all just get along at the same time and at the same time be in ass-kicking mode. You got to decide which one is more important for you. There has to be a boss. I told you, every organization has to have a boss. Your mind has to have a boss. Is the boss, let's be friends? Is the boss, let's everybody get along? Or is the boss, we got to get this shit done regardless of us being friends or not? Number 2, be prepared to do everything if you have to. Episode 882, when to completely take over. You got to have the skill to take over, not just the thought to take over, not just the mindset. You got to have the skill. Because if you don't have the ability, you can't take over. You can't do everything if you don't have the skill to actually do everything. And point number 3, compartmentalization. You don't have to be this person all the time. Learn mentally. This is a mental skill that you develop when to turn it on and get it done, and when you can turn it off immediately when the job's done. You can go back to being a smiley, friendly person, keep everybody happy with you and friends with you, and put your foot in their ass when you need to, but then take your foot out of their ass when the game's over and the job is completed. Work on your game. DreAllDay.com.